authors, it's Melody here. Welcome to Author Nation, your go-to resource for everything you need to be a successful nonfiction author, from planning right through to promotion and everything in between. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about traditional publishing versus self-publishing or indie publishing. There are several points to consider when you're looking at traditional versus indie publishing. If you want to make the best decision for yourself, don't be swayed by self-publishing is the best. Only go traditional. Think through the pros and cons of each and make the best decision for yourself. Let's go through some of the differences. First, royalties. If you are an indie publisher, you are the publisher. Therefore, you get all of the royalties. You get all of the profits from the book, but of course, you have to pay out all the expenses as well. For example, if you are distributing your book through a particular space, they may take a percentage. That's their fee for the distribution. That's the model where you get to keep all the money, all the revenue after you've paid out all your expenses. On the other hand, traditional publishing, they take your book for you and then they take on all the expenses. They take the risk. Therefore, when they sell the book, you get some money, you get a percentage or a royalty, but you don't get all of the money after expenses because you haven't taken the risk. The traditional publisher has taken the risk. On average, you might get 10 to 15% of royalties after expenses. So for royalties, when you go traditional, once they've paid their expenses, then royalties will kick in and you might get 10 to 15%. Now, if you got an advance at the beginning, let's say they gave you $5,000 at the beginning, they will make that money back before they start paying you royalties. So really, in advance is they're saying, well, we think we're going to make some money on this and we're going to give you 10% royalties, but we're going to give you a whole chunk of money up front, $5,000. And then when your royalties start kicking in, we're going to keep back that $5,000 before we start paying you out again. So it's not like you're actually making money. The thing is, though, that if you write a book and they give you $5,000 and you don't sell any books, they're the ones taking that risk. They're out that money, not you. Now, in hybrid publishing, it goes, a bit of both. So if you go to a hybrid publisher, they're not 100% a traditional publisher, but they are taking some risk and they will want some reward for it. They are putting out expenses when they don't know what they'll be getting back. And so that's something you can negotiate with a hybrid publisher, or you can find the right hybrid publisher that has the right model or business model that works for you. The next thing to think about is recognition. If you are published by one of those big 5 traditional publishers, it's kind of like someone going, "We agree that this was a good book." It's like a stamp of approval, right? On the other hand, if you self-publish, you then have to find the publicity and kind of give your own stamp of approval, or find somebody to write a review that gives you that stamp of approval. So recognition is slightly different between traditional publishing and self-publishing, although I admit that is narrowing quickly. Earnings. Now, if you go the traditional route and the publisher takes all the risks and it's flops, you're out nothing. If you take the traditional route and it's a huge big seller, you are stuck with royalties and they're making lots of money. Self-publishing, on the other hand, you're taking all the risk and you will get all the earnings after expenses. If it's a big flop, you'll lose money. If it's a big success, you will make lots of money. The next thing to consider is project management. If you go to a traditional publisher, they have a production manager who looks after everything for you. They will find the editor, connect you with the editor, they'll talk to the designer, they'll talk to the illustrator, they'll talk to the person formatting the book, they'll talk to all the different types of editors. They do all of that for you. If you are self-published or indie published, then you're doing all of that work yourself. You are the project manager and you're hiring the designer, you're hiring the editors, you're doing that communicating, you're putting all the pieces together, you're deciding when it goes through each stage. So that's what it's like to be an indie publisher. You end up not only being the author, but the project manager, the production assistant, and the hiring manager as well. Now, on the flip side of that, let's talk about control. So if you are indie published and you are hiring the editor and you are hiring the illustrator and the person who does the book cover and the formatting and the interior of it, You have full control over everything. What you say goes. You don't like what they did? Change it. Say no. On the other hand, a traditional publisher, because they're taking all the risk, they also take away all the control. And so when you're working with an editor, for example, that editor works for the publisher as much as he or she does work for you. And so if you're having, no, I don't like it that way, I don't think it should be done that way, and the editor's saying, look, this is what's going to sell, and the publisher wants this book to sell because they're investing in it, they're taking the risk, you've lost that level of control. Hybrid, on the other hand, is, again, in between. You can find the right hybrid publishing company that has a business model that works for you, and then you might be able to retain some control. Giving up control of things that are less important to you, that is something you can negotiate, or just find a hybrid publisher that has the right business model again. Okay, next, let's look at speed of publishing. If I'm an indie author, I can write a book, I can find an editor, I can whip it all together, find someone to do the book cover, whoever's available, I can whip it all together, and I can get projects out really fast. Traditional publishers, on the other hand, when you give them the book, it has to go through their process. It can take over a year to go from here's my manuscript to here's the published book. And so they move a lot more slowly than you can individually as an indie publisher. So, if you have something you want to write about, for example, something current events, you can, as an indie publisher, whip that out and get it going. As a traditional publisher, that's not going to work as easily. And again, hybrid publishing, somewhere in between, right? Again, look at the hybrid publisher's business model, see if it works for you, ask them how fast they can get it out. So we have traditional publishers, they're kind of the mammoths, right? They're huge, they've got a lot of money behind them, but they play by their own rules, they move at their own speed. And then you've got the indie publisher who can do whatever she wants, whenever she wants, whip things out, get things moving, but takes all the risk. And then you've got the hybrids in between, looking at the business model, looking at what you want to retain control over and what you're not willing to give up, and what you are willing to give up, and how much risk financially each side is going to take, and you can figure out what works best for you. So, do you want to go traditional or do you want to go indie? When deciding, think about these factors and think about your strengths and your weaknesses and your purpose in publishing. All of that will help you make these decisions. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up. I would love to hear what you think. Please leave me a comment. And for more, subscribe to the channel. Ooh, and don't forget, there is a publishing checklist in the description for you, just in case you want to be an indie publisher and you want some guidance.